Thank you all for tuning in to another edition of Outside the Shop with me, your host, Daryl D. Lane, as always, where I get to talk about everything that I normally don't get to talk about on my regular sports podcast, Barbershop Sports Talk, which you guys can all find on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcasting apps from, or listen to your podcast. By the way, thank you everybody who's tuning in via YouTube live stream, Twitter/Periscope, and Facebook Live. I appreciate it. Share this show, whichever platform you're listening to, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, wherever you're listening to, please share it and give a like and a comment as well. The podcast that I released today, I had Chasey J on. He's one of the co-hosts of the PSO Sports Podcast. I really enjoyed having him on. We talked a lot about the NBA. Mainly, so if you're a big basketball fan, I recommend everybody checking that out. And again, you can check that out on all your podcasting apps and platforms. Also, check out the link below. It's a description of my top 27 defensive ends of this upcoming draft class. So if your team needs a edge rusher, check out that article. Hopefully it'll give you guys some insight on this upcoming defensive end class in the draft. So here's what we got today. More Deshaun Watson allegations. We have an Aaron Donald allegation. Different form of assault, though. And Jadeveon Clowney signs with the Cleveland Browns. Justin Fields Pro Day. NCAA, they're going to have a new transfer rule. Notorious will be back. Conor McGregor. And NBA GMs are a little bit concerned about the injury. So first, let's start with this. Deshaun Watson. Another woman just came out, and I was just actually looking at this before I just came on. Another woman came out before that. So we have two women come out today, and that brings up the total to 23rd in this whole Deshaun Watson case. Obviously, same old, more massage stuff, more accusations of coercion. And this kind of had me thinking, because at first what happened was, I believe yesterday, you finally had a woman recant as the plaintiff and say, they're taking themselves out of this whole thing altogether. And then it moves down to 21. And then you have two women. So now it's at 23. So, this is not looking good for Deshaun. You kind of wonder how he got himself in this situation. So I just kind of want everybody to comment. Where is this going? Where is this going? Is this going to eventually get legal in any of your eyes? I'm just curious where this is going, because you kind of have more and more women come out. Obviously, after Rusty Harden said you're going to have to put your name to it, I assume that's why one of the women decided to kind of take her name out of this whole situation, because obviously she didn't want to reveal who she was, and that's her right. Right? That's her right. She wants her protection. She doesn't want people to know her business. That's fine. I applaud that. But I just want to know where everybody thinks we're going with this. Next up, Aaron Donald is in the news for some assault, different form of assault, not sexual assault, just beating the crap out of people. It looks like Aaron Donald, who's at a club with another guy. I'm looking at this 3 to 4 a.m. Nothing really ever good happens at 3 to 4 a.m. Obviously, drinking, women, a lot of stuff can go haywire there. But what ends up happening is he beats the crap out of the dude. If you saw the dude's picture, you guys can look it up. He beat the crap out of him. The dude got lumped up. And now he's pressing charges. And you just wonder, first of all, why is this dude messing with Aaron Donald? Have you guys seen Aaron Donald with his shirt off? Aaron Donald's a freaking man. Have you seen his workout videos? And there are a couple guys I will not mess with. Derrick Henry and Aaron Donald. Those are two dudes, no moss, I am not fighting. I'm not going anywhere near those two guys. Could you imagine tanking a punch from Aaron freaking Donald? My God, I don't know how that happened, but Aaron's going to get himself in a little bit of trouble here. Never a good look. In terms of actual football news, Jadeveon Clowney will be signing a 1-year, $8 to $10 million deal, I believe, with the Cleveland Browns. He's a 3-time Pro Bowl player, former number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft. Has been battling injuries. He missed, as I'm looking this up right now, he only played about 8 games. He played 8 games. And he was hurt. Had to end up being put on injured reserve. Had one of his worst years ever as a pro. Didn't have a single sack, 0 goose egg. Not very good. Think maybe possibly Cleveland can get him back healthy. He can get back to being that dominant force we knew and loved Jadeveon as he was at in Houston a couple of years ago when J.J. Watt was doing his thing, but people knew what Jadeveon Clowney was and what he represented. If you can get Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney flying off the edge, that's going to cause some problems. And I'll tell you this, Cleveland is a sneaky team to make the AFC Championship game. I know the Bills were that team that did it last year. Right here, right now, Cleveland's a sneaky team. Now, I want to see what they do in the draft. Obviously, it's going to be interesting to see what Kevin Stefanski and all those guys do over there in Cleveland. But Cleveland is legit. And let's remember this. I know Patrick Mahomes was hurt, but, late in that game, Cleveland was there to win it, which is something that the Buffalo Bills can't say. Kansas City ran through them like hot butter. So, Cleveland's on the level. Like, Cleveland can do it. Cleveland can compete. And the best way to stop Patrick Mahomes, we saw what the Tampa Buccaneers did, your front four. Get pressure with your front four. Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney, that's what you do it. You crowd it. You cause a lot of issues for Mahomes. You beat the crap out of those tackles, and you hit them again and again and again, and you drop everybody back. That's what Tampa did. Keep it sweet, plain, and simple. I think that's what Cleveland's going to try to do, and that's what they're going to have to do, because Kansas City is obviously the standard in the AFC, have won the last 3 straight AFC championships. Justin Fields, former Ohio State quarterback, he had his pro day. Teams that attended were the Jets, 49ers, Atlanta Falcons, Carolina Panthers, and Denver Broncos on his second pro day. I just quickly want to know, everybody, which team would you most like to see Justin Fields play for as a fan? The Jets, the Niners, the Falcons, the Panthers, or the Broncos? Now, obviously, I don't think the Jets are going to happen. I think the Jets are gung-ho on Zach Wilson out of BYU. I love Zach Wilson as a prospect, by the way. Also, the 49ers, I think it's all signs right now are pointing to Mac Jones is going to be the guy. The Falcons, obviously, he's from Georgia, so I think that would be interesting. But there are a lot of reports leaking the Falcons to potentially to Trey Lance. So then you have take those 3 teams out. Obviously, the Carolina Panthers, they just gave up about 2 to 3 draft picks. Then they gave up a second and a couple thirds, something like that, whatever they gave up for Sam Darnold. So I think they're going to plan to, in all likelihood, go with Sam Darnold. Then that leaves you to the Broncos, and, they still have Drew Lock. I think they want to go with Drew Lock for at least one more year. So I can't see them just completely, getting rid of that experiment, this early. But I think that's more of a thing. Denver's going to look for a high-round quarterback next year's draft, not necessarily this one. I think they're going to try to run it back with Drew Lock. So I think it's going to be really interesting. Now, obviously, one of these teams might take him. Will he fall? I think the Justin Fields dynamic is going to be really interesting for a guy that was number 2 in this potential quarterback class to Trevor Lawrence. He's now fallen down in some people's boards to the QB5. What a fall from grace for Justin Fields, particularly since all he's done is win games at Ohio State. And he elected to play. Like, he could have sat out and been the number 2 guy, but he elected to play, and it hurt his draft stock. Now, in terms of the NCAA and hurting draft stock and all that stuff, the NCAA reportedly will implement a new transfer rule. The transfer rule, it will allow a one-time transfer for every Division I college athlete. This applies to all sports. I think, and it's interesting how you think about this. Obviously, people like Lincoln Riley in college football, they don't like it. That now this now will allow players to transfer within conference. For a long time, you had to sit out a year to transfer within conference, or you couldn't transfer within conference. You had to make sure you were graduated, finished your 4 years before you could transfer anywhere you want. Less restrictions for the players, and the coaches are getting less and less power. We're kind of seeing this in college basketball, where players and athletes are electing not to play college basketball and they're going overseas. And we're seeing this differently kind of in college football with the transfer portal. Now, you're seeing instances where we see tons of transfer quarterbacks, like a Jalen Hurts, right, from Alabama to Oklahoma, Kyler Murray from a Texas A&M to a Oklahoma. So we're seeing this, but I just find it very, very interesting. I think there is a couple things. First of all, I think at the true essence of this, you do, and people comment if you think I'm wrong about this, I think at the true essence, you want a college kid to honor their commitment, right? Nobody makes them sign that letter of intent to go to this university. And sometimes things happen, right? Coaches lie, stuff like that. And I think that's part of it is growing up and being a man, being a young adult. You have to kind of vet these things. Or maybe, if you go to Oklahoma, if you go to Alabama, you got to know that, Nick Saban, as much as he's talking to you, you think he likes you, he's looking at that other 5-star quarterback, and then that other 5-star quarterback in the next class, and the next class. So I think players need to realize that, and maybe there's more HBCUs things going on with guys like Ed Reed, Ray Lewis. Deion Sanders just said that. Deion Sanders is doing his own thing. Maybe you go to a school like that. Maybe, you go to a D3 school, D2 school. I don't know. Obviously, Trey Lance, AA football, AA division football, right? So, I mean, there's a lot of different places these players can go, but I think it's really interesting to see how the whole transfer thing is working out, and the kids are getting more power. The college athletes are getting more and more power. And I think this will say this. Coaches are going to have to butt kiss a lot more, ass kiss a lot more, because I'm trying to tell you, you don't want to piss off a freshman who's really talented, and then he's going to be like, hey, peace, see you, wouldn't want to be you, go to another program, go to your rival. You have to watch and you have to manage people more. And that's what really coaches should be doing, but you're going to have to do a lot more of that. Maybe more than you should, but hey, that's the struggles of being in the coaching industry. Okay, so Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier, they will have another fight. Last time they fought was a couple months ago. Dustin beat the crap out of Conor. He put him to sleep. He took him out. I think this is Conor McGregor's last stand, kind of. If he loses this fight, I think he's done as a guy that I personally really want to see. Like, because if he loses again, like, do I really ever want to see him? Let's say if there's another chance for him to fight Floyd. Do we want to see that again? Do we want to see him fight a Nate Diaz again, right? Remember, that was supposed to be the trilogy that was supposed to happen. Or for God's sakes, they can never get Khabib. They can convince Khabib Nurmagomedov to come out of retirement. Would you want to see that? No. So I think Conor needs to start getting some wins under these belts and stop messing with these dudes to get back to being that prime Conor that was knocking people out and we loved to watch. And lastly, NBA GMs are concerned about what's going on in the league in terms of injuries due to the condensed regular season. First of all, I do want to say this. I think it's interesting. People criticize the NFL for how they handle COVID and how they did their kind of season, but the NBA is struggling. We've had multiple teams not be able to play during COVID over the course of the season. We've had multiple players break COVID protocol, and I flamboyantly and ignorantly, I might add, and there's been a lot of injuries. So I don't think, as much as people like to butt kiss Adam Silver and the NBA and say how they're the best league in sports, they're so progressive, they know what they're doing. The NFL did do it better, and I think that's kind of undeniable. But, I just wanted to say that. I just always think that's interesting because everybody always talks about how great Adam Silver is. But, the NFL and Roger Goodell, they're the billion-dollar industry, the multi-billion-dollar industry, right? They just signed, a $12 billion deal? The NBA isn't doing that. They signed a $4 billion deal. Just saying that. Sometimes truth hurts to some people. Like I said, share this, whichever platform you're listening to. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, Daryl Lane. Check out the podcast I released this morning with Chasey J, co-host the PSO Sports podcast. And on the link below, if you're interested in the NFL draft, defensive ends, edge rushers, check out my top 27 edge rushers for an article I did for Fluent Sports. Have a great